What's up, YouTube? It's Heretic here, and welcome back. We are post-World Championships now, and today we are taking a look at Shintaro Ito's Masters TCG Division World's winning Mega Audino deck. And this is quite a crazy occurrence. I mean, sometimes you just can't make this stuff up. But Mega Audino winning the World Championships and in epic fashion, cleaning out his opponent's Greninja deck in the finals. And so this actually brings me back to when I saw Alex Hill and Chris and Diane Szymanski playing a different variant of Mega Audino back at the Origins Win-A-Trip. I didn't think too much of it at the time, but wow. After watching Shintaro play his deck, it's on stream and in the finals, and really just absolutely incredible. So anyway, we're looking at his list that he used to win Worlds, and so we've got, first thing we notice with our Audino is we have a pyramid line of 4 Audinos and only 3 Mega Audinos. This is something I often did with Mega Manectric when I played it, although I think that was more so because I didn't have 4 Mega Manectrics, but I had 4 regulars. So anyway, the pyramid line ended up working out pretty well for him. Even when he prized 2 copies of Mega Audino in the first game, he still was able to get the 1 out and roll right through those Froakies and Frogadiers. So for those of you who don't know, Mega Audino's attack, Magical Symphony, for 3 energy does 110 damage, and if you played a supporter card from your hand during the turn you attack, it also does a 50 damage snipe onto any one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So in a format full of low HP basics like Joltik and Pumpkaboo, Phantump, Froakie, and all of that kind of stuff, Zorua, you can imagine where the 50 damage sniping is either enough to take a quick prize or come very close to, and it even comes close to taking out a Shaman in 2 shots off of its snipe. Of course, against Night March, for example, you can Lysander up a Shaman, knock it out with Magical Symphony's 110 damage, and deal 50 damage to, say, a Joltik for a 3 prize attack. And 220 HP makes sure this thing is no pushover. So it's got a lot going for it there. So our supporting cast, we've got 2 copies of Shaman EX for our draw power, and then we've got 1 Absol. Since we're doing snipe damage, and usually we're not going to have to do the full 110 damage twice to get a knockout on something in the active, we can move 30 of that damage over to something on the bench to help accelerate a bench knockout or simply take one in the middle of a turn. And that's what Absol does, allowing us to move 3 damage counters from one of your opponent's Pokemon to another when you play it from your hand onto your bench. So, pretty nice concept we got going on there. Next is Cobalion, which has a really interesting attack called Quick Guard for 1 Metal Energy, preventing all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from basic Pokemon during your opponent's next turn. The one drawback is that Cobalion cannot use Quick Guard during your next turn. But a lot of times you're just using this to stall for a turn early, or maybe you get 2 energies on it late and you can use Revenge Blast, dealing 30 damage, plus an additional 30 more for every prize card your opponent has taken. So if a couple of your Mega Audinos go down, you can bring up Cobalion and do a lot of damage for very little energy. Pretty solid attack there as well. Next we have Midgame-EX, the new 7th generation Pokemon, the first one from 7th generation to be printed onto a card and made legal for play. Midgame is pretty much here for its Mystic Heart ability, preventing all effects of your opponent's attacks except for damage done to any of your Pokemon that have any metal energy attached to it. And existing effects may not be removed like they were with Virizion EX and Status Cons, but that's still okay because we saw in the finals how Froakie's Bubble would not have been effective on Mega Audino due to Midgame and the presence of a metal energy on the Audino. So this is a pretty solid way to protect your Pokemon from not only status condition attacks, but also the Silent Fear attack from Trevenant Break, which is a pretty big deal in a format where people, I think, expected to see a lot of Trevenants. So Midgame proving its worth, and you can also use it to attack for at least once before it goes back to the bench for a metal and 2 colorless. Pretty easy to acquire in this deck. Soul Blaster does a whopping 120 damage, with the downside being that during your next turn this Pokemon's attack only does 60 damage instead of 120. So swing with it once and then just bring it back to the bench more than likely. I guess between 2 turns you can still accumulate 180 damage, which would be enough to take out any non-Mega Pokemon EX that isn't either Wailord or Zygarde. So pretty solid. And then finally we have one Hoopa EX to pull our Audinos and our Magearna and Shaymins out of the deck with its Scoundrel Ring ability. Not really too much else to say there. So that's our Pokemon lineup. This is pretty interesting, pretty straightforward, just Mega Audino to the core. I guess if you can avoid Carbink, you're in pretty good hands. So our items, we've got one Escape Rope for switching and getting rid of annoying effects like those of Glaceon, Regice, Jolteon, etc. We've got one Mega Turbo, one Startling Megaphone, and one Super Rod, kind of our one-ofs. Just Mega Turbo for extra acceleration on an Audino in case you hit like Crushing Hammers or maybe you whiff an energy for a turn. Megaphone really just to get rid of Fighting Fury Belt and make knockouts possible, I think is really just the easiest way to go about that. Super Rod is good in most decks, I mean unless you're playing something like Night March, so that makes a lot of sense. Just for recovery abilities for whatever you might need back some energy or some of your Pokemon. So we got 4 Trainer's Mails then to help speed us to the trainer cards we need, 4 Ultra Balls to get our Pokemon out, and 4 VS Seekers to reuse supporters. So all just pretty basic stuff there. We get into our supporter line, the first thing you might notice is 2 copies of AZ. And this is a very, very good thing to have, especially when there are item lock decks in the form of Seismitoad EX, namely in Water Box, as well as Trevenant and Vileplume in the format, so lots of ways to switch out, switching effects. Should an item lock deck bring up something like Hoopa, per se, or an unevolved Audino that you're not really able to do anything with at the time, maybe it doesn't have any energy attached, so we can take advantage of that with AZ. We have Hex Maniac next, as we don't really rely too much on abilities, at least after we've played through our stuff during our turn. Only Magearna has an ability that applies through the opponent's turn, and so if you're really depending on Magearna that much, you're probably not too worried about having to lose its ability or probably not too worried about, about hexing away if you really need it that much. A lot of times you can afford to let Magearna's shielding ability go away for a turn to Hex Maniac if you're up against a Greninja and say, I dare you to bubble me, go ahead. I run Escape Rope and 2 AZs, I should be fine. And most of the time that is going to be the case. So, kind of helping out in a matchup that, despite how it went at the end of Worlds, I still feel like could be a little bit awkward. But anyway, as we go on, 2 Lysanders, just setting up those 3 prize knockouts with Magical Symphony, really just what it does best, of course, aside from just taking prizes. 2 copies of N, due to our VS Seeker and Trainer's Mail library that we have, really not needing to run any more than that. 1 Pokemon Center Lady, really the most interesting supporter card, I think, in the deck. A card that I'm not really too big on, and the fact that we run Magearna EX also kind of makes it this an interesting choice. But I guess if you are forced to Hex Maniac out of Magearna, you could always use this to remove a status condition. And of course you get to heal 60 damage, which when you have a 220 HP attacker, they're going to need all the damage they can get. And if you can force a 2-hit knockout to become a 3-hit knockout, you could probably just gain enough momentum off of that to be able to take the game, or at least come very close to doing so. We have 4 copies of Professor Sycamore. I mean, you wouldn't really expect anything otherwise than that, I wouldn't think. 1 copy of Zero Sick, really to get rid of, again, Fighting Fury Belt, or also to take out double colorless energies and any other special energy you might see. I guess Double Dragon could be kind of a problem with Giratina, so finding a way to deal with Giratina between Hex Maniac and Zero Sick to slow down its energy so that it can't Chaos Wheel and lock us out of our double colorless energy, definitely a solid inclusion. We have 2 copies of Parallel City next. This can be great for getting cards like Hoopa, Absol, and Shaymin off the bench after they've been used up, since we no longer need them. And then if we want to use them again, we can Super Rod them back into the deck and just replay them. We've got 4 Audino Spirit Links to go with our 4-3 line. Extra Spirit Link just in case. Sometimes we have to Sycamore stuff away early, so you have it there, better safe than sorry. 2 Float Stones for some free retreating. And then we've got 4 double colorless and 6 metal energies to round things out. So this is Shintaro Ito's world's winning Mega Audino list, and we are going to take this thing for a spin and see how it works out for us. So let's go. Okay, so a water deck with some colorless stuff. Alright, so that's what looks like what we're going against, and so we will win the coin flip and choose to go first and see if that can help us as much as it helped out Shintaro in the World's Finals. So you notice the momentum he gained in the first game of the final series by going first was absolutely phenomenal. So we'll see if we can do something similar here. Our opponent flips over a Froakie, so ironically we are going up against a Greninja, it looks like. So we will go ahead and attach a Metal Energy to Audino, and this is going to be a painful Sycamore, but we're going to do it. Losing 2 versus Seekers is not exactly a picnic, but we'll see if we can make something happen there. We go ahead and get an Audino Spirit Link down, and I think we can pass our turn at that. So hopefully we will be able to get Mega Audino rolling on turn 2 and make something crazy happen. So we see Dive Ball for another Froakie, and we'll see where this goes here. We do get a Water Energy onto the active Froakie, and we'll see a Bubble here, but it is Tails, so no Paralysis. And we do draw the double colorless energy. So let's go ahead and play this Trainer's Mail here, and we can actually just get the Ultra Ball. And so after that we can discard Cobalion and a Metal Energy to go and grab a Mega Audino from the deck. And, okay. So we can go pull that, and we are going to have to play a Lysander here if we want to do the bench damage, but I think we're going to be okay just doing the 110 to the active and not worrying about that, as we can do a Magical Symphony, get that energy off the board for 110 and claim a knockout. Since we don't have Magearna, I would rather try to dodge the paralysis if possible, and of course we have 2 Lysanders at our disposal now. So we do see another Dive Ball, a Frogadier comes out, and so now we see Frogadier with an energy, and we will see water duplicates. And here's an interesting scenario where had we Lysandered last turn, we could be in line to take a 2 prize turn right here, which now of course we can't do. But nonetheless, we will continue to build up our forces. We'll put an energy on the Audino on the bench, and we can go ahead and we could do a Lysander here, it looks like. Just bring one of the other ones up and do Magical Symphony for a knockout, and we will put 30 damage on the benched Frogadier that has the energy, claiming another prize card. There's our Professor Sycamore. So next turn we should be able to go and grab the Magearna-EX with that Ultra Ball in our hand and then Sycamore away. Or we could simply use the Lysander again and try to clean up an extra knockout here. And being up by 2 prizes doesn't mean too much right now, just because, again, Greninja has comeback potential. That is really Greninja's forte, is come from behind. And so we do see a Greninja evolved into play, and another one on the bench. Now, even if our opponent manages to score Rough Seas this turn, he will still have 20 damage on him, which will be enough for a Magical Symphony to finish this thing off. We see a Remoraid, which is something a little different. So, and we'll take a Moonlight Slash here for 80 damage. 100 damage, sorry. He's got a Muscle Band. So, okay, so we draw into a Shaman. That's not too bad. So, we're going to go ahead and discard Startling Megaphone and Lysander. We're going to go grab Magearna-EX from the deck. Try to get a little extra effect boost from that. And since he didn't Shadow Stitch us, we can just go right ahead with the Shaman setup. So we'll put a Floatstone on Magearna, and we can go ahead and attach a Metal Energy to Magearna as well and try to get our setups a little more even. And I think we can actually just play for the long game here and use Pokemon Center Lady. So we're going to VS Seeker here. We're going to grab the Pokemon Center Lady from the discard pile and play it to heal Mega Audino by 60 damage. And then we can Magical Symphony for a knockout. And we can get, let's see, that's got 60 HP. We'll just go ahead and lay 50 damage on the Greninja. And chances are he break evolves and basically makes that irrelevant, but we'll still go ahead and try to make the play out. And we do get an escape rope as well, which is a pretty solid pull. So Greninja will come up once again. A 3-prize lead, so not too bad right now. We do see Octillery. Of course, our opponent has way too many cards in hand to really make much use of it now. He plays a town map, so we see his prize cards. Nothing too crazy in there. And then we do see Dive Ball for the Greninja break, so we are going to start taking a bit of damage here. And we're also not doing enough. However, if we do get the double colorless energy, we can use M Audino-EX to knock out this Greninja break, as long as Rough Seas does not see the board this turn. So that would be an interesting way to go about KOing a Greninja break here. Our opponent does play a Super Rod, also attaches an energy to Greninja. And we see 2 Frogadiers and a Greninja go back into the deck. And a Professor Sycamore is played, discarding VS Seeker and Skyla. And so it's really just waiting to see if he gets that Rough Seas. I see a Froakie go onto the bench. And just a lot of crazy stuff going on. We do see a Puzzle of Time, an interesting play for a Greninja deck. So he grabs a Dive Ball and a Muscle Band back. And we do see the Muscle Band go onto the Greninja. And here's the Dive Ball, so I'm guessing another Greninja will come straight out of the deck here and evolve on that other Froakie. And that's exactly what he's going to grab. So that makes a lot of sense. So another Greninja will come down. And we see another Moonlight Slash for 100 damage. So that leaves us with 20 damage. Now, if we go to the bench, we put ourselves in a situation where a Water Shuriken would be able to take us out while something else is active. But getting the knockout on this Greninja break would be such a huge play in this game that I don't really think I can deny that right now. So we will attach an energy to M Audino-EX, and we are going to go heavy with M Audino here in a moment. We can also AZ up this Mega Audino to deny prize cards, which might be the better play here. So I mean, we could Sycamore, but we don't really need to at the moment, so we can just play this AZ, grab the Mega Audino. We lose the energy, but that's okay. And we will bring up M Audino-EX. We can put another Audino onto the bench again, of course, and then we will use Soul Blaster for 120 damage and a knockout. So Greninja break goes down. We claim our 4th prize card, and we do hit a Audino Spirit Link here. So if we attach that to the Audino with energy, we can Mega Evolve and then Professor Sycamore and try to set up Mega Audino to start attacking all over again. Absolutely crazy how some of this stuff works. We do see another Greninja break come into play. Can't really say I'm too surprised by that. We also see a Frogadier, a Floatstone on the Octillery, and a Muscle Band on Greninja break. So waiting on an opposing either supporter card or a use of Octillery's Abyssal Hand. First we're going to see a Giant Water Shuriken laying 60 damage onto M Audino-EX. So very well might see M Audino get knocked out here by a Moonlight Slash. But really just such a crazy thing to be able to attack with M Audino even if it gets knocked out. To get that extra 10 damage that Audino was not able to deal. We do see a Sacred Ash there for an entire Greninja line, as well as an additional Froakie. There's the energy, so we will be able to Moonlight Slash M Audino for a knockout. It'll be absolutely perfect math. We also see VS Seeker there for a Skyla, which can go and grab presumably an N. And it looks like he's going to get a Dive Ball instead. So he can go ahead and play that and get another Octillery into play here. And we just need to hit a double colorless energy. Instead he goes for the Greninja. So I guess that will be for next turn to be able to evolve his other Frogadier. We do have Escape Rope handy and ready to go, which is really just a sight for sore eyes at this point. So M Audino gets knocked out, and we'll see what he decides to take off of his prize cards here. Okay, so 2 prize cards down, making sure to grab that Lysander. And we do still have 1 Floatstone, 1 AZ, looks like a VS Seeker. So we've got some ways to switch out. We also have the Escape Rope in our hand, which we're probably going to use this turn, since we can try to just clean up on the last couple of prize cards here. We do draw into an N, which is not really something we want to use when we only have 2 prizes left. But we can go ahead and lay down a Spirit Link and Mega Evolve our Audino. And I'm going to go ahead and also do Hoopa, just to try to thin the deck, since we know he has Lysander one way or another. And I think I'm just going to go with the Shaman here, get a little bit more draw power to try to set up this Mega Audino play here. And we can go ahead and Shaman, and I'm going to do it before I play the Escape Rope, even though it's 1 less card, just to try and see what we can hit here. And we hit the Mega Turbo, which is an interesting option. That gives us an interesting choice here. So I will attach a Spirit Link and Mega Evolve another Audino in the active position. And now we have the option of which way we want to play this out, with 3 Metal Energies and 2 double colorless left. And so we can just go ahead and Mega Turbo onto this bench one. We could also Mega Turbo up to the active, but let's just say if we draw any of those energy cards, we will have our attack, increase our odds, and then lastly we're going to play this Escape Rope before we Sycamore, ensuring that we get a knockout with Magical Symphony on our turn. So I'm expecting him to bring the Remoraid up here, which is exactly what he did. And then we will go ahead and get our switch out and then play Professor Sycamore. And so we completely missed an energy. Oh, wow. Alright, so maybe we can hit an Ultra Ball here or something. Let's see, we did get another Audino line. We do have a Professor Sycamore, but we really bricked on that one, so that's not good. Go ahead and play another Trainer's Mail here. We do hit Hex Maniac, but that's not really going to do too much for us either. And of course we don't have another Shaman anyway, so go ahead and put another Audino down, and we can use Parallel City to knock those Shamans off of our bench so that they cannot be easily picked off. And unfortunately we are going to have to pass our turn at that, so that is pretty ugly. So now all he has to do is find a way to retreat this Remoraid, another Floatstone perhaps, and then he can simply bring Greninja out and go straight back to work. So that did not go the way we needed it to. Apparently we are not as lucky as Shintaro is. So we do see another Greninja come onto the bench, the one he searched out last turn. Of course, at least for right now, his attacks are doing 20 less damage due to the Parallel City. Of course, that could change by a Rough Seas simply overlaying it. He does retreat into Greninja Break here, so we are probably going to see, well, it looks like we're going to see another Octillery. Okay, maybe not. But we're probably going to see a giant Water Shuriken here. I find it hard to believe he would retreat into that otherwise, unless he's just desperately trying to prevent a knockout. We do see Lysander for our Hoopa EX, which, that sucks. And we see giant Water Shuriken. So that's going to become probably a rather frustrating deal here, as 60 damage is thrown onto our Mega Audino. We see Abyssal Hand here for 3 cards, but he's already attached energy for the turn, so we do not have to worry about taking an attack here. That is one benefit we do gain here. And we are... okay, we have 1 Versus Seeker left for the Hex Maniac, since we're probably going to have to discard it here. Let's go ahead and get that 3rd Mega Audino out. And we will play the Professor Sycamore. And maybe we can hit a Floatstone. Probably not, based on what I'm seeing in my hand. But we will Trainer's Mail. There it is. So we do manage to draw into our Floatstone here off of the Trainer's Mail. So we can attach Floatstone to Hoopa and go ahead and just retreat right into Mega Audino and try to make something happen here. We'll do a Magical Symphony there. 110 damage, and we'll just go ahead and lay 50 damage. We can lay it on really anything other than the Greninja there, I think, as he can simply break evolve that Greninja and make crazy, disgusting, despicable things happen that we don't really want to have to deal with. And this really does turn into a race now due to Mega Turbo being gone, and really wishing that we had put this Metal Energy on the other Mega Audino now instead, since we do have another double colorless. So we see Giant Water Shuriken here dealing 60 damage. And we may also, this N may come into play next turn, but he's going to have enough energy to knock us out here as long as he's got one more in hand, because he will be able to launch a Moonlight Slash for 100 damage. So instead, our opponent opts to play an N. He's going to end himself to 4 cards. It's going to drop us all the way down to 2, and there are 2 that we can't really use. We do see a Rough Seas come down, which is kind of a pain in our side. And we see a Froakie, and we can only hope that after this Abyssal Hand, he misses a Water Energy, as otherwise that would pretty much put the nail in the coffin, I think. So he evolves into Frogadier there, and switches out into his other Greninja. So he misses the energy, and that is a huge play. So we can go ahead and look at what is in here. Namely, want to see how many energies. He's got 6 energies in there, which means he has probably somewhere around 2 water energies left. And we have the option to N here for another 2 cards, which I think we're just going to go ahead and take that option here. Try to hit an energy card. We're not going to be successful at that, but we can try to conserve our Audino's life here by another turn by Parallel Citying once again to try and reduce his damage output. And then we will deal a Magical Symphony, hitting for 110 damage. And we will go ahead and put 50 more damage on the Greninja break. And so he's going to have to hit either a Rough Seas and an energy here, or a pair of energies in order to knock us out. We do see Rare Candy, so he evolves into Greninja, and then Rare Candy's another one into the XY Greninja. And then gets a 3-card Abyssal Hand draw. So definitely some possibilities here, and of course if he hits the all-important Fisherman, he can pretty much just lock this up. So we know that that is not in the prizes, but one of his water energies is in the prizes, so that could definitely become a thing here too. Of course he still has the option to play a supporter card as well, which, okay, so there's the Versus Seeker right there, and he does grab the Fisherman, so it is in his discard pile. He's able to grab 4 water energies back, which should be more than enough to take out our Audino due to the regular Water Shuriken, I'm guessing. And he'll probably Giant onto something on the bench. Okay, maybe not. I guess that just looks stupid now. That's fine. So we take 60 damage. And that is probably just about going to end this game. There's not really much we can do to keep up with this now. He attaches to his Greninja. We see a regular Water Shuriken onto a benched Mega Audino. And we're going to see 100 damage come down from this attack now. Moonlight Slash. And he, of course, bounces his energy and knocks us out. So Mega Audino goes down, and we're going to see probably Rough Seas and the water energy come off of his prizes here. Instead, he chooses to take Wally. So he'll be able to get another Greninja breakout here. So we're just going to bring this Hoopa up, and we're not going to draw much here. So I guess I don't really know what we can do here. I think this is just pretty much the end of the line for us. We have no energy. We don't have another Mega Turbo available, so unfortunately I do not have the skill level of Shintaro Ito at winning this matchup. It went a little differently this time, but you can still see how this matchup goes. Of course, this guy running Octillery, so a slightly different variation of Greninja than the one that was played in all the way up to 2nd place in the World Championships, but nonetheless, very well played by our opponent, and not much we could do. I think placing the Metal Energy in the wrong place definitely hurt, but we're going to go ahead and surrender this game and go and do another one here, maybe hit a different matchup. So I'm going to go ahead and say good game and scoop it up. We'll go to another one. Okay, so we've got all kinds of different types on the other end here. We see the Dialga coin. It looks a little different than the one I'm used to seeing. We're going to go ahead and take the first turn deal here and see if maybe it serves us a little better than it did in that last game. And so even though we lost that game against the Greninja deck, you can easily see how a decision here and a decision there can make a difference, as in mainly the Mega Turbo and then, of course, the effectiveness of N. So we see a Pikachu flipped over. Now, based on all those types, I have to wonder if this is a Rainbow Road deck, which is a crazy Xerneas deck. You guys may remember seeing my Xerneas Rainbow Force list from recently. Deck is extremely powerful post-rotation and is pretty darn good even now, but gains so much potential post-rotation. Is absolutely incredible. So we're going to go ahead and get the Hoopa here. And Hoopa is going to get us Magearna, Shaman, and another Audino. So we can go ahead. 1, 2... yeah, we're not going to grab a Mega just yet, since we're going to try to draw out of it here with our Shaman. But we'll go ahead and get Magearna down and another Audino. And then we can set up for 3 cards here. And that's not going to do much for us, so we'll play this Trainer's Mail. We hit an N, which is exactly actually the supporter that I was looking for. Not really too enthusiastic about having to discard a pair of VS Seekers. And I'm not going to play the Parallel City just yet, because I'm more so wanting to save that for when there is a bigger bench on the board. So we go ahead and play an N, and we've got a pretty solid hand just waiting to come down now. We'll go ahead and put a Spirit Link on our Audino and pass our turn. Next turn we can go Metal Energy, Mega, and then VS Seeker once again for the N to enable us to do some bench damage here as well. And Mega Audino will be able to get rolling right there. So our opponent plays an Ultra Ball, discarding a Pikachu and a Skyfield. And let's see what he decides to go and grab here. So we see Hoopa EX from our opponent as well. And so I'm guessing he's going to go and probably grab Volcanion EX, Shaman, and maybe if he's got a different Pokemon EX as well, with a different type, might as well go and grab that one too. So instead it's just going to be Volcanion and Shaman. And I do appreciate the good art on the Volcanion. That's my favorite artwork of it. So that's pretty cool to see. And let's see if he's just going to Shaman for 2, or if he's got something else here to play first. So he attaches a Fairy Energy to Volcanion. Interesting decision here. Gets a card out of his hand that way. And does Shaman setup ability for 3 cards. So we'll see where this takes him. He gets a Xerneas down on the bench. Plays an Energy Switch. Moves the energy from Volcanion over to Xerneas. So not a bad way to get an extra card off Shaman there, as it pays off with an Energy Switch. And we'll see if he's able to do anything else here. It looks like he's not, so it will be our turn. So we can attach this Metal Energy onto Audino and Mega Evolve. Now this Xerneas has 120 HP, so we're probably going to want to try to go ahead and find a way to probably just lay our snipe damage there. So we can play Versus Seeker here now. Grab the N, and I am aware that he has only 4 cards in hand, but early on I'm not going to be too worried about that right now. I'm going to go ahead, overextend a little bit, and try to get some stuff rolling. We do get another Audino Spirit Link here, and we can do a Magical Symphony to get a knockout here on the Pikachu, and also get 50 damage onto the Xerneas to kind of set that up for a knockout, and we'll claim our first prize card, which is another Professor Sycamore. And we've got a pretty solid hand here in terms of our supporter options, being able to either ditch everything and draw, or we could simply Lysander up something like that Volcanion and just kind of have it sit there until our opponent can draw into either a Floatstone or an AZ or some other kind of switching effect. We do see an Ultra Ball again, discarding Skyla and Professor Sycamore. See what he decides to grab here. Maybe, I'm trying to see here, maybe like Zorua would be a decent option if he runs it. And okay, that's actually a very good choice. Grabbing Carbink, which can safeguard us away. And I'm seeing a list here that's pretty similar to the one that I have myself. He VS Seekers for Sycamore, which he's going to play, discarding 2 Fairy Energies and a Versus Seeker. The energy switch is definitely different, but I have to say it worked out pretty well. Our opponent does drop a Parallel City, so we are going to go ahead and discard this Hoopa off of our bench since we really don't want it there. And that's going to keep us from paralleling him, though, which is a big deal. So Xerneas is going to come down, and we will see a Max Elixir here, really waiting to see if our opponent drew into the double colorless energy here. Max Elixir accelerates a Fairy Energy onto the benched Xerneas. And now where is that double colorless energy? There it is, right there onto the active. So we are going to take 190 damage from this Rainbow Force attack. Fortunately, not enough to knock us out, but a ton of damage. Absolutely incredible how much that thing can do. And we do draw the Pokemon Center Lady, which could heal us a little bit, but it's not really enough to make it do too much here. That said, it might be our best option. I'm not entirely sure what I want to do here. If I want to discard this double colorless, so that might not be the worst option either. We can go ahead and attach a Floatstone to Magearna. And I don't really want a Lysander here since we're not knocking out this Xerneas while it's on the bench. So I think we are just going to play the Professor Sycamore here and draw into a fresh hand. I was kind of hoping we would be able to set up a Hex Maniac play in case Carbink does come up to play, but instead we are going to get another Mega Audino out at the very least. And then we can do a Magical Symphony here, knocking out this Xerneas and laying 50 damage on the other Xerneas that is sitting on the bench. So if we can just kind of keep that up, we can manage to maintain our knockouts here. We can also, if we need to, bring up an attack with Magearna in that scenario. As we, barring an N here, we will be able to use Mega Turbo when our active Audino gets knocked out to charge up the second one, and then we can attach the double colorless or the metal energy, either or, onto the Magearna to get an attack ready that way. So we see Sacred Ash shuffling in Xerneas and 2 Pikachus, and he does play the N. Okay, I can't really say I'm too surprised by that. But fortunately, we only need 1 energy to make our next Mega Audino go off, and we do have a Versus Seeker in hand. But he attaches a Fighting Fury Belt, so he brings his HP up to 160. Again, though, him having only 120 instead of 130 is going to prove to be a big deal, as Magical Symphony will still knock him out. We do see a Max Elixir onto the benched Xerneas and a Trainer's Mail here. And he is going to knock us out, but we're going to go ahead and hopefully get that return KO here. We see another Fighting Fury Belt as well. Goes on to the other Xerneas. However, the math adds up in our favor, as 160 is still within snipe and then head-on attack range here. 50 plus 110 for a knockout. So we're going to bring up the Magearna because it has the Floatstone. And we can also just drop the Startling Megaphone here, too. That's another option. And since we're probably going to discard it anyway, we might as well play it. So we'll go ahead and do that. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite us with something like a EXP share. But we're going to go ahead and grab this Professor Sycamore. And we can just go ahead and play that. Draw 7. And oh my goodness, we missed an energy. What do we do with this? Ugh, this is gross. Alright, so looks like we can try to use Absol here, I guess. Let's see. Not really much we can do with that Super Rod at the moment. We could try to use the Absol here, or okay, yeah. Valiant. No, I think we'll go ahead and we'll use the Absol. And we'll move 30 damage here onto the other ones. So we're just going to spread the damage between these two Xerneas since we discarded those Megaphones. And then we'll sacrifice the Absol here to an attack from the Xerneas. And hopefully he does not have a Lysander handy. Had we had a Metal Energy, obviously we would have had the attack, but you could also look at Cobalion being a potential use there. So he plays a Professor Birch, which is an interesting choice. Only manages to get 4 cards, though, as he flips Tails. So another Fairy Energy goes on to the Xerneas on the bench. We do see a Super Rod here. So I'm guessing he's going to get an Energy, a Xerneas. Okay, nope, just 3 energies. Okay. So maybe he's got a Max Elixir handy. We do see Rainbow Force for way more than enough damage, 190, so that'll be a knockout. So we'll be forced to bring Magearna back up due to its Float Stone. And we'll go ahead and play this Trainer's Mail here. Okay, so we hit Mega Turbo. So that's good. We get something we can work with there. So let's go ahead and play that Mega Turbo. Get the Metal Energy. Get that onto the Mega Audino. And I think we're going to go ahead and Super Rod the other Audino line back into the deck. Don't need the Hoopa. Get the Absol instead. And then we're going to put Cobalion down, and we're going to discard these Audinos. So that's why we Super Rodded the other ones back in. And so we draw not too shabby off that. And we can actually get Magearna's attack. We can start to power that up. And then we can retreat into Mega Audino and use another Magical Symphony, knock out this Xerneas, and we can put the damage pretty much wherever we want now, which is pretty beneficial. So we're going to go ahead and snipe this Shaman, since we're already knocking out Xerneas due to the damage Absol moved onto it, and we draw a Metal Energy off the prizes. Not the worst thing we could have hit. We can use that to help out with Cobalion, which can stall for a turn with Quick Guard and then use Revenge Blast for a massive amount of damage. So we see Celebi come down, we see an Energy onto Xerneas, and Rainbow Force right now hitting 190, which is a pretty big lick. Fortunately, our opponent has 3 prize cards remaining as opposed to just 2. And we do see another Professor Birch and another Tails Flip. Oh my goodness. Okay, and if he does hit the Fighting Fury Belt, we do have a Zero Sick handy, which we would be able to use. So that's pretty good. So we've got some stuff kind of working in our favor there. And I actually need to see this. Okay, it's just when it's knocked out, even if it is on the bench. Okay. But we can try to work towards a knockout here with Magical Symphony. And I guess this, you know, despite slowing it down for a turn earlier on, I think we've hit pretty well here. The Mega Turbo definitely helped gain back that turn of lost energy. And now we're just waiting to see that Rainbow Force attack here for 190 damage. No Skyfield is a big deal because that would have given him the opportunity to actually knock us out. But alas, that did not happen, so we could just play this Trainer's Mail. And it doesn't look like there's too much. We're just taking Ultra Ball out of the deck. So we got 3 of them now. And what kind of options do we have here? Maybe a Hex Maniac is an option. I don't think Pokemon Center Lady is necessarily the most appealing. Well, maybe it... Let me see. He can... What kind of damage could we be looking at? Maybe that actually is the decision here, now that I think about it. I think it actually is. I don't know why I was just saying it's not, because he doesn't have a Xerneas ready. So if we Center Lady the Audino, we take it out of range of anything other than, realistically, anything other than a another Rainbow Force as far as a knockout. We can put a Metal Energy on Cobalion and go ahead and do Magical Symphony. We'll get another knockout, and we'll get 50 more damage on that Shaman EX as we come closer to winning the game with our snipe damage here. Draw 1 more prize card. We get a VS Seeker. That's always welcome. So Shaman is going to come forward and probably Sky Return to keep itself from getting knocked out. But because we played a Pokemon Center Lady, we are not going to get knocked out by Sky Return. And that is a huge deal. So 30 damage is dealt. And Shaman is able to successfully jump off of the board. And now we have another Versus Seeker that we got off the prizes, which we can use to grab the Hex Maniac out of the discard pile here. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to grab this Hex Maniac, which will allow us to knock out Carbink. And then we can go ahead and deal 50 damage as a snipe somewhere. And we're already knocking this thing out, so let's go ahead and put it on... what do we do here? Which one? Does it really matter? I guess we could knock out this thing with Magearna or with Cobalion, so we'll go ahead and put it there. Since we're going to have to two-shot the Volcanion one way or another. So he brings up the Celebi. Going to try and rely on that coin flip. We do see a Pikachu... yeah, sorry. We do see a Pikachu on the bench. It gets a Fairy Energy. And we see a switch. So he's going to switch into Pikachu here. So he's going to try to use Tail Whip to prevent us from being able to attack. But I don't know how much that's going to matter if he doesn't have an N. He gets Tails, so we can just Magical Symphony. If not, we could have attached an energy and used Revenge Blast for the game anyway. But Magical Symphony is going to get it done, take our last prize, and we are going to cruise to victory over Rainbow Road with Mega Audino. So this is just kind of a couple of games showcasing the world's winning deck, even though we didn't win against the Greninja. Just kind of showing that matchup and a bit more of what could have happened but did not in the World's Finals. Obviously, I don't know the deck nearly as well as Shintaro Ito does, the man who won the World Championships with it. But it is a pretty interesting deck, so there you can kind of see that, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. So anyway, I'm Heretic, and I will see you guys next time. Cheers.